this is what the unit circle ends up looking like after we place it in all four quadrants. So we have all of our positive values. We have some negative values, all negative values for sine and cosine, and then some negative values, some positive values, again for sine and cosine. And we're going to be looking at examples of how to use this, this unit circle. I know when you look at it like this, it looks very confusing and looks quite daunting. But the most important thing to take away from this is at the particular angles that we're looking for, the sine of theta is going to be equal to the y value, and the cosine of theta is going to be equal to the x value. So if I'm looking for cosine 315, that's just going to equal the x coordinate, which is root 2 over 2. Right, and we can test that in our calculators. So for example, cosine 315 is equal to 0.707, and my square root of 2 divided by 2 is equal to the exact same thing. So let's see how we use this in some examples. So use the unit circle to find the exact value of the trig ratios for a rotation angle of 240 degrees. Give each answer with a rational denominator. All right, so sine 240 degrees. Now I'm going to refer to my unit circle, and I'm just going to write the ratio I'm looking for, so sine 240 degrees. And what I would have to do is find 240 degrees on my unit circle. Now 240 degrees is right here. Now I know that the sine of 240 degrees is equal to the y value, so that's going to equal negative root 3 over 2. So all I need to write is negative square root of 3 over 2. For tan, or let's go cosine 240. Yeah, here we go. So now we're doing cosine 240 degrees. We again highlight 240, and the cosine is equal to the x value, so negative 1/2. Negative 1/2. Now, when we're looking for the tan, notice how there's only two coordinates on the unit circle. Tan, if we think back to what the tan ratio is equal to, tan ratio is equal to y divided by x, or we could also say sine 240 over cosine 240. Now, what that would look like, sine 240 is equal to root 3 over 2. Root 3 over 2 divided by, and that's negative 1 over 2. In order to solve something like this, then we would just rewrite this as root 3 over 2 times 2 over negative 1, and then multiply. So we're going to end up getting negative 2 root 3 over 2, and those will cancel out. And again, they're both negative, so we're going to be left with a positive root 3. And we're doing the exact same thing for example 5 here. Now, example 6, if I have these coordinates, A and B, and they're 2 points on a unit circle, if an object rotates counterclockwise from point A to point B, through what angle has it rotated? All right, so let's take a look at how to set something like this up. So again, always a good rule of thumb is to start with your Cartesian plane. And if I'm looking for A, negative root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2, that's a negative x and a positive y value, so that's going to be over here somewhere. And we could look at our unit circle for the exact coordinate, right? That's going to be negative root 2 over 2. 2 over 2 is going to be 135 degrees. So right there, and that was point A. Now point B is a negative x and a negative y value. And that's going to be located down here somewhere. And again, we could look at what that angle is going to be. If I have -1/2 over negative square root of 3, that's going to be at 240 degrees. And that's going all the way down here. So A was at 135 degrees and B was at 240 degrees. Now, in order to determine what angle it's actually has gone through, we would just go 240 subtract 135. And that would equal 105 degrees. Now, we're going to look at class example 7. Use a calculator to determine to 4 decimal places the coordinates of the point on the unit circle that corresponds to a rotation of 148 degrees. So the points on the unit circle, remember, are x and y, but our x and y are also just the cosine x and the sine y. And so how we would write this would be like this. We would have cosine 148 degrees. That's one coordinate. And the other coordinate is sine 148 degrees. That's my other coordinate. And this corresponds to, in our calculators, so cosine 148 would be negative 0.8480, and sine 148 would be 0.5299.